Good morning, and in case we don't see you, good afternoon and good night here on the SB Nation NFL show, specifically on Monday, Football Monday. My name is RJ Ochoa from SB Nation's Blog on the Boys, where we cover the land of penalties, aka America's team. This is Monday, Football Monday. This is the SB Nation NFL show. And a reminder before we get started that this show is brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code SBNNFL for a special offer when you sign up. That's code SBNNFL only at DraftKings Sportsbook. As mentioned, my name is RJ Ochoa. This is Monday Football Monday, the show that gets your week started here on the SB Nation NFL show. We have a number of different ways, a number of different platforms that you can utilize to listen to, watch, consume our show however you want, except for intravenously. You can listen to us, of course, wherever you get your podcasts on the SB Nation NFL show. Look for us, subscribe, leave a rating, and write a review. You can also watch us on the SB Nation NFL YouTube channel, on the SB Nation NFL Twitter page, and the SB Nation NFL Facebook page. If you cannot tell, it is very difficult to say SB Nation NFL show that many times, that close together, but I successfully landed it. So a shout out to me. A shout out to Rachel Prevet from SB Nation's Bleeding Green Nation, always on the ones and twos here on Monday Football Monday. And a special shout out to our early contender for the MF Double MVP from SB Nation's Niners Nation, more specifically from any backyard making a chili dip that you may or may not like. He co-wrote Backstreet Boys' As Long As You Love Me. It is the one and only Rob Stats Guerrera. You can follow him on Twitter or Instagram at Stats on Fire. Stats en Fuego. Happy Monday to you, my friend.
I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what you did, RJ, as long as you love me.
As I don't think anyone will believe that was not planned. Well done, Sets. That was amazing. Pete Sweeney may or may not be a part of Monday Football Monday in the future.
Where are
I'm starting
you,
to
Pete?
forget what he looks like, if he's real. Maybe I concocted Pete sort of as a figment of my imagination over the last 2 years or so. Stats and I were actually the last people who you heard here on the SB Nation NFL show on the look ahead. And what we do, Stats, on the look ahead, well, first of all, you get to sit in the host chair. And so what I do on Mondays, I come in, I disinfect it. Get the germs off, get it all nice and clean and ready to have a good time. The chair is bored on Friday, if I'm being quite frank with you. So now let's jazz it up. Let's have some fun. Let's spin that wheel. Let's go up to Golden Hut, like in Bamboozled in that episode of Friends that Joey, Ross, and Chandler play. But it's time to look back. This isn't a look back, but we have a week of games. We have a whole set of preseason games that happened this past week. And normally on Monday Football Monday, we react to what happened. We don't have to go through every game. That would be a little bit silly here after the first official week of the preseason. But we can pick and choose. We can cherry pick the things that we liked or did not like, which is exactly what we are going to do here today. Winners and losers from the first week of the preseason. Stats, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? I actually think you do want me to go first.
No, I would like to go first because I just like to talk on this show, if that's all right with you.
Okay. No order. So if you want to have a winner or a loser, just go. Whatever is on your heart. Speak it, Stats. Speak your truth.
All right, let's start with Chicago because I actually feel like there's two losers from that game. The first, I don't know if I should blame the Bears or the NFL. The state of Soldier Field was laughable this weekend. People were tweeting out pictures, and the NFL comes, they rush in, and they come, well, it passed the minimum standard requirement. Like, great, okay, then change the requirements. It's awful. And if you're the Bears, you have Justin Fields playing on. Like, Justin Fields has no help, right? He was the other loser, and through no fault of his own. The field is garbage, and his offensive line is garbage. That poor guy is running for his life. I don't know how you can invest in a quarterback the way the Bears have and then do absolutely nothing to help him in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Just look at the difference between the 49ers and Trey Lance and the Bears and Justin Fields. Trey Lance has like every opportunity, every luxury you could possibly want as a young quarterback. Justin Fields has nothing. He's just there. They're like, okay, Justin, good luck. Hope you're good. The poor guy's got no help in Chicago.
I think this is a very fair. So, like, who specifically is your loser?
The Bears organization, I guess.
Okay. I always think it's funny in situations like this when the NFL or whoever, like whatever power it be, is like, well, it passed the minimum test. You're a multi-billion-dollar company. Like, why is the minimum like what we're aiming for? And it's not even like, like it was a Thursday game following a game they hosted on a Sunday, right? Where you're like, well, it was quick turnaround, whatever, this and that. And it's like, this was literally like the first game, like the first football game that took place at the venue. So how is the minimum suddenly like the quality that's involved? Also, when I saw stats, you can tell me, maybe this is outside of your particular musical taste, but an Elton John concert had to do with impacting the field. I saw there was a lot of great, like, I bet there was some tiny dancers on the field that, like, messed up. That was like that. The low hanging fruit was there, But you would think we learned that lesson from the Pro Football Hall of Fame game a few years ago, the Colts Packers game that had to be completely canceled because of everything that tarnished that turf ahead of that game. Why do we do this? Like, why is? I mean, have Elton John come sing. You know what I mean? Like, quite the artist, Elton is. But I mean, don't schedule it this close to a game to where this is going to be an issue. And it's not like Soldier Field has not had terrible reviews when it comes to the quality of the turf before, which it's like Soldier Field and FedEx Field. It's like, if you're playing football in there, it may not go well.
And, I saw Brad Biggs, who covers the Bears for the Chicago Tribune, was tweeting out that the field will be 100% resodded before the September 11th opener. That had been the plan all along. He said, you can't just go to the sod store and replace your field without pre-planning. Like, well, whatever the planning process is, Brad, it's got to be better. Like, it has to be better. And don't give me this, well, it was better than it looked. It looked pathetic, okay? It looked like a high school field. This is the NFL, like you said, RJ. It's a $1 billion business. Get the freaking field right.
Okay. I feel bad for Justin Fields, and I feel bad. I so greatly, legitimately enjoyed this game, from the standpoint of I'm a big Matt Eberflus fan, as has been well documented here on the SB Nation NFL show. So this was his first, opportunity. It was a preseason game, but still like first chance to run out the tunnel, shake the hands, take pictures and selfies with the family, things like that. And so for it to have this like this dumb of a like overcast layer, it's just unfortunate. You know what I mean? Like, this is a really avoidable problem. Sometimes you have bad luck and things that follow you. This shouldn't be one of them. But good start, Stats. Good starts. Coming out with some passion. 10 out of 10 so far, your performance. I'm not awarding the MFL MVP, but just so everybody knows, who's keeping score at home. Oh, we have an MFL MVP thing to settle when we get to that point, but we'll get there later. My first one, Stats. Are you ready? You went negative. I'll be the yang to your yin. I'll go positive. You actually mentioned my first winner, and it is San Francisco 49ers QB1, Trey Lance. That's right, baby. Trey threw. I know you have the stat off the top of your head. How far did his pass travel in the air? The touchdown pass? It was like 34 yards.
It was 34 yards. Yeah.
Okay, and I think Jimmy Garoppolo had like one pass that traveled that far over the last 2 years, something like that. Like, I don't want to butcher the stat, but it was something to that effect. And it was literally the first like taste of freedom. I have to imagine you were literally Andy Dufresne in the rain, just experiencing life anew as a 49ers fan. He finished 4 or 5 for 92 yards with the touchdown. I don't care about that specifically. I think he looked like, I think this was everything you wanted to see. I mean, you cannot feel great about Trey Lance until you get to the actual regular season. You obviously have the trust within Kyle Shanahan. Granted, he's the person who has overseen the Jimmy Garoppolo disaster, so you kind of remove some trust from that perspective. But this was awesome. This was a huge first step. This was maybe Trey Lance retaking the throne, or maybe taking it for the first time, of being the best quarterback drafted in 2021.
Like Andy Dufresne, I have crawled through a river of crap and come out clean on the other side. It was it was like exhaling to see that deep pass, especially because I went to a rookie in Danny Gray, which was nice to see too, because the whole point of getting Danny Gray on the team is he's really fast and we're hoping that we can hit him on some deep plays. So that was nice to see. But it was just so much fun. When Trey Lance drops back, I don't think, oh no, something bad's about to happen. I think, oh no, something good's about to happen. And the other encouraging thing that I saw from Lance, one of the first plays of the game, he drops back to throw. He doesn't see it at the top of his drop. He steps up in the pocket, which is great. He didn't roll out. He moved up in the pocket, and then he reset his feet like he was going to throw again downfield. Didn't see it, and then he took off. and he ran like 7 yards and he slid. So basically he went check, check, check on every play, every aspect of that play. And it was really nice to see that he wasn't just one read, it's not there, I'm taking off and running. He really went through everything and exhausted all possibilities before he ran. I think that's a good sign. I think that's exactly what Kyle Shanahan wants. And the fact that he slid and didn't take a hit was just a relief. I think it showed a lot of growth from year 1 to year 2.
I know we haven't done any sort of like divisional picks or things. They're like playoff picks, and we'll definitely do that on the look ahead as we get closer to the regular season. We have a big look ahead announcement coming soon. I don't want to spoil it. We've been kind of, tiny dancing around that subject as well. So we'll reach a point where we do kind of like our picks for things like that. And I have to reevaluate the way I think about the 49ers. And I know that I don't think it's fair to be like, this has been there all along, because it hasn't. Like, I think this was a bit of an unveiling, and I have to imagine, as exhilarating and liberating as this was as a 49ers fan, it was probably also equally frustrating, because it was probably like this dude's first, not first, taste of action, because obviously he played sparingly last year, but it's like he clearly has the like tools and components necessary to be a functional franchise quarterback in the NFL, and which is what you and I talked about last week on the look ahead. Like, it kind of feels like the Niners just burned last year. Like, it was a successful season, you lose the NFC title game, whatever, but at what cost? Like, at the cost of time, at the cost of a year of development of Trey Lance, a year of his rookie contract. And so it's frustrating to feel like you could be a year past this moment, which was already exciting in and of itself when it comes to Trey Lance. So it's kind of like a 99% winner with a 1% loser baked in. You know what I mean? So just kind of is what it is. I also forgot to say, Stats, in my super awesome introduction where I apparently spoke too much, that Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott is on this episode of Monday Football Monday. How could I forget? I was the one who did that interview. So in a little bit, we'll throw to that. And you can hear my conversation with him. You can also hear it over on Blogging the Boys properties. But Stats, you're up next. We have one loser, one winner. Again, we'll see who wins MFL MVP, but I've been really positive. You've been kind of Eeyore about this whole thing.
Yeah, I'm going to stick in negative town. Since you talked about my team, RJ, I got to talk about your team.
Let's go.
I know you were upset about this because you were tweeting about it over the weekend. The Dallas Cowboys. Can you run a play without getting a penalty? 17 penalties in the game for 129 yards. And look, one game, you might think whatever, there's people that aren't going to be on the actual team playing this, that, and the other thing. Here's the problem. 2 problems, actually. 1, the most penalized team in the league last year, the Dallas Cowboys. And 2, after the game, you've got Mike McCarthy standing up there, who I continue to tell you is a potato, and you don't want to believe me. He's standing up there just hand-waving it away. No big deal. Don't worry about it. You guys are talking. You're making something out of nothing. You're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. And clearly Mike McCarthy's allowing it to happen, RJ.
So, I'm not going to cape for the Cowboys here in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I'm frustrated. I'm not even frustrated. I'm amazed. I'm almost happy for Mike McCarthy, because I think criticisms of him go too far for the sake of the joke, like calling him a potato. I don't think that's fair. I think he has objective and legitimate flaws that really hurt the team, that really hurt the Green Bay Packers, that were ultimately a part of his demise. But to call him a potato, or the way some people speak about him, ignores legitimate and objective pros that he does have as an NFL head coach.
What?
I mean, he truly has changed the culture, within the Cowboys. They're not, or at least he's tried, and he's swimming upstream in that sense. Like, you've got to give him that. Like, he's swimming upstream against a culture of Jerry Jones and what he is sort of built as far as being this country club and not being a real team and things like that. And again, I've made this point a million different times. From a roster standpoint, the Cowboys have so many holes. Like, this looks like a team who's just now hitting free agency or hitting the offseason. I mean, like, it truly is that way. I mean, and he's under a lot of pressure. His owner, his boss, publicly, dangled his job security in the name of keeping somebody else around him employed, a subordinate of his employed. And so, again, it's not a difficult boat he's in. But you're right. Like, there are things he does that seemingly don't make sense, and then he makes them worse when he speaks, which is definitely a legitimate and fair criticism of Mike McCarthy. So to set the stage, you're right, Cowboys most penalized team in the NFL last year, but unlike past seasons where the Cowboys would have issues in that department, not that they had them to that degree, and I've talked about this, I don't think I've caped for this in any way, shape, or form. they whined, they complained, not just Mike McCarthy, but Dak Prescott at the end of the year, had his comment that he got fined about as far as fans throwing things at ref. DeMarcus Lawrence, CeeDee Lamb, team leaders moaning and groaning publicly after they lost to the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals lost 5 of their final 6 games. The only team they beat was the Cowboys, and the Cowboys came out after that loss and said, yeah, we were playing more than the Cardinals today. Like, losers. This is loser mentality for you to be out here whining and moaning and groaning. And so that was a big thing that we sort of, were concerned about coming into the season from a Cowboys perspective. And it's the preseason. You're right. There's a lot of dudes who aren't going to be on this team. But in your very, very first, they had 14 penalties when they lost to your 49ers stats in the playoffs. They come out, they have 17 here, and that's only 17 accepted penalties. There were multiple plays where they were called for a penalty that featured multiple penalties. So, and then at the very end of the game, the Broncos declined a penalty in the name of kind of advancing the game. So, I mean, this could have very easily, if you approximate, been somewhere around 20. Now, this is where a lot of Cowboys fans fall like, oh, well, Tyler Smith really wasn't holding. Oh, well, that really wasn't roughing the passer. Like, there's these ticky-tack penalties. Fine. You want to throw those out the window? I don't think that's totally fair, but, I'll give you that because it's the preseason. Okay, it's preseason for the referees, too. Cowboys, I mean, there was a taunting penalty on Dante Fowler, one of their big free agent, I'm air quoting for the podcast, one of their big free agent signings has a taunting penalty that helps Denver ultimately score points. Kelvin Joseph, a second-round pick who, I mean, you can make an argument whether or not he should even be playing on the field because of off-the-field situations this past offseason. I mean, he's had one of the worst camps of anybody on the team so far. He has an offside penalty on a Brandon McManus field goal attempt that he missed. And that was near the end of the first half. McManus misses the field goal. He gets another chance, and he makes it. I mean, he literally gives them 3 points. I mean, so they had, multiple boneheaded plays like that are not a symptom of the preseason or ticky-tackness or whatever. And my big problem with the way Mike McCarthy addressed it, I don't have an issue. I know you do, but with him saying this is not a big deal, this isn't related to last year, I disagree with it. But what else is he supposed to say? Like, I hate that response. You know what I mean? But what else is he supposed to...
Anything else? I'll fix it. This is unacceptable. We need to get this right. Don't just act like there's no problem. He's whistling past the graveyard.
I would prefer that. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not going to fault him for that. So those are different things. But what I will fault him for, and I thought you were going to mention it and you didn't, and I did a TikTok and Instagram reel about this, no big deal. I'm super hip and cool. Buried in that, like spiel of his that wasn't really kind of like touched on by the big national audiences is he said, you guys can write whatever you want. And it was like, whoa, like, what do you mean? Like, you guys can write whatever you want. Yeah, like, we're not making this up. You know what I mean? Like, that was the line. Like, he was like, this isn't related to last year, but, you guys are going to write whatever you want. And it was said with this smugness and this arrogance. Like, I know you guys really just want to pretend like we have this huge penalty problem. So go ahead, go off with your keyboards. And like, no, dude, it's your fault. Like if you showed some accountability, I would come on here on Football Monday, I would defend you in an objective sense to stats, but I can't if you're dismissing it and if you're acting like not only is this not real, but it's the media's fault for conjuring up this conspiracy theory that you have way more penalties than you should.
But RJ, that's my point. I don't know why you continually defend this guy. What does he do? He doesn't coach the offense. He doesn't come up with a defensive game plan. He can't clearly handle the media. He doesn't manage the team in any way, obviously, because they're still getting penalties left, right, and center. What would you say Mike McCarthy does? Because even you just admitted he hasn't changed the culture. So what are the positives that he is bringing?
I think at first, the argument was he oversaw the machine. He was just kind of not the general manager, but like the general manager. And that is tough in this organization. And I think, people like to think, and I don't mean to poo-poo your team, but people like to think that other teams are on par with the Cowboys as far as like expectations or pressure. Like if we learn anything from the Mike McCarthy experience in Dallas, it's that it's not the same. You could be the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, one of the most storied, most iconic, most visible teams in the NFL, and that is a tadpole of a situation compared to the big frog that is the Cowboys, because we're learning that this is the way Mike McCarthy spoke for a long time. And I'm not saying that like nobody thought these things about him before, but it's all the more magnified here because of the stage. And so like that is an interesting just kind of social result of his tenure as the Cowboys head coach. But so I think early on, and I think it's fair to not dismiss 2020, but to say Dak was hurt, right? Like that was a difficult situation. You have to give him some benefit of the doubt for that. But last season, I think he was overseeing things. He was managing all the personnel. personalities managing, Jerry Jones. And you can certainly make an argument that shouldn't be a factor on a functional NFL team, but it is. And so, I mean, he managed that moderately well. That was the only answer I could give you. Now, I mean, now it's tough. I mean, I kind of respect that Mike McCarthy's at least standing up for what he believes in. But what you're believing in is kind of silly at this point in time. Again, especially, kind of now blaming the media, pointing fingers here. Before it was the referees. The referees were out to get Mike McCarthy's team. Now it's the media. When is it your fault, Mike? When are you the one who's improperly teaching things? When are you the one who's not executing things at the level they're supposed to be executed at? There's no accountability from this team, and I'm with you in that stems from his disposition as a whole.
He lied to Jerry Jones to get the job. Remember, he admitted in his introductory press conference that he lied to get the job.
I thought that was overblown, but I mean, I can't defend it, but go on.
They led the league in penalties last year. The first chance we get to see him on the field, what do? They lead the week in penalties. They had more penalties than any other team. Again, 17 accepted penalties for 129 yards. So clearly it's been a problem. He hasn't fixed it. I just don't know what he brings. When you're saying we're going to hire Mike McCarthy as our head coach, what are you getting, right? You hire Kyle Shanahan, great offensive play caller. Sean McVay, great play caller. Sean McDermott, great defensive coach.
Matt Eberflus, who we just talked about, great defensive mind. Right. Totally. I want to see Mike McCarthy take control of the offense for what it's worth. Because to your point, sorry to interrupt you. What I do not want is this season to go poorly for whatever reason, and then for Mike to be able to sit here and say, I've never really had a chance. I never really got a chance to run my offense in Dallas. No, and I don't know who's still defending Kellen Moore. I'm not saying his career is over. We've seen all of Kellen Moore, but right now there's not a lot to love. So you know what, Mike? Again, I would somewhat disagree with it, but I would at least respect if he said, you know what, I'm Frank Sinatraing this thing. If I'm going down, I'm doing it my way. This might be my last chance to be an NFL head coach.
Right.
I want to be able to sleep at night in the future saying I did it the way I wanted to do, and it wasn't good enough. I can live with that, but at least I did it my way.
I agree. You don't want to ever go up and well, I never really took control and I should have. That's worse. If you fail, okay. But if you never try, that's even worse. So I just, my stance on this, RJ. I think he's just playing out the string. He's going to get fired after the year. They're going to bring in Sean Payton because that's what Jerry Jones has always wanted to do. And so I just think that they should have just got rid of him after last year. I mean, even the way last season ended, my God, they can't get the playoff because they don't know that you can't spot the ball yourself. You have to hand the ball to the referee.
And then they blamed the official. Then they blamed.
And what did they say? We practice that play all the time, which means Mike McCarthy was coaching it wrong. Again, I don't know how you defend this guy. But anyway, I put the Cowboys in the loser category.
Right before we started this morning, ESPN's Todd Archer, who covers the Cowboys, wrote something, and the tweet that went out with his story was Dallas Cowboys banking on Dak Prescott to elevate inexperienced receivers. Good thing they don't have a lot of salary cap space at the whim to be able to go sign whoever they want. Good thing they didn't have an established veteran receiver on the team who they traded away for nothing this offseason. This was the only course of action to bank on Dak Prescott. But to be frank, Stats, that's what you and I are doing here on this episode of Monday Football Monday. We're banking on Dak Prescott for content. Dak joined us on behalf of DirecTV. Great commercial he's in ahead of this season. Obviously, DirecTV, the home of the Sunday Ticket. So let's go ahead and get to it. Here is Dak Prescott on the SB Nation NFL show. Stats, I know that you already listened to my interview with Dak Prescott. 100%. You've listened to every single word. You transcribed it all. So that being said, what was your favorite part of the interview?
I like the part where Dak used a lot of cliches. He's very good at just making me feel calm and comfortable and using a bunch of cliches and getting through the interview.
Truth be told, just this is how the sausage gets made. Stats has not listened to it in this moment, but he will listen to it. Stats has a big time interview himself coming up later today, by the way, that I'm excited to listen to. I don't know if you want to, you posted about it, so I don't have a problem adding Jerry Rice joining Rob Stats Guerrera over at Niners Nation. So two equally GOAT players, Dak Prescott and Jerry Rice.
Oh, God. It's a little weird. I'm getting ready in the morning and I'm like, my hair is not looking good. Jerry Rice is going to see my hair today. Let me get the comb. It's weird to think that.
That is so silly because look, I know the podcast audience can't tell, but you never have a bad hair day. I give you a lot of crap for a lot of stuff. There's nothing bad ever with this head of hair here. I mean, it looks beautiful. Andrew Garfield would be so proud of you. I asked Dak to if he had to describe his approach to this season in one word, what would that be? What would be the most cliche answer that you could think of without having listened to it yet?
Effort? I don't know.
Focused. That was his.
Thanks, Dak. All right. Can I go to the positive side of things? Because I've been in negative town.
Well, it was your answer, so sure, go 2 in a row, whatever.
All right. Let me go to the positive side. And maybe this is going to hurt you as somebody that roots for the Cowboys. I thought Jalen Hurts looked pretty good. Pretty good. I like what I'm seeing from him. Obviously, he's not going to be that good, but I think that he's taken steps forward. I love all of his intangibles. So if he can get right on the field and, take the next step as a passer, if I were you, I'd be a little worried about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles.
I think that there are, and maybe this is a future episode of the Look Ahead, there are, because, when I look at the Cowboys, for example, like my job, there are several different forks in the road, like several players or several things that represent forks in the road for the team. That's not to say that they're all on the same path, but like they could go down different sort of alternate timelines or realities based on certain players. And I think the NFL as a whole is similar in that sense. I think Mac Jones is a fork in the road player, right? Like if Mac Jones elevates himself this season, holy crap, watch out. Like it's a very different year. If Trey Lance elevates himself this season, he's another fork in the road player. Jalen Hurts might be the biggest one. Like if you're talking about ripple effects one way or the other, if he does take a step, if he does elevate his game from a passing perspective, because we know he has everything else, right? Like we know he can run. We don't know how long that will last, obviously. It's not something that like sticks as players get older. We know he has all the leadership qualities. We know his team is forward thinking. We know he has a supporting cast, a surrounding cast around him. We know he plays in a weak division in the weaker conference. If he elevates his game from a passing standpoint, yeah. I mean, and I think what we're ultimately saying is what Eagles fans have said all offseason long, and I can tell you is one of the 3 legs of the NFC East mixtape tripod. Shout out to Rachel here, of course. I'm not fishing for MVP points, but a lot of Eagles fans stats say like if the Eagles had Dak Prescott as their quarterback, they'd be Super Bowl favorites, and I think you can make that argument, right? Like that's, I mean, what, I don't know how good anybody believes Dak is, top 5, top 7, whatever, but if you put that quality quarterback on that team, if that's who Jalen Hurts is, yeah, watch out. I think A.J. Brown is his like just throw it at the wall receiver, right? Like we're in the red zone, whatever. It's 4th and goal, it's 3rd and goal. I'm just gonna throw it up. AJ's a magnet. He's gonna come down with it. That's a really valuable weapon that not a lot of teams have. Like it's not easy to be a physical monster. Devontae, that's the thing though. If he can master Devontae Smith the way that Josh Allen has mastered Stephon Diggs, if you can get your timing and your release and everything down to where you can hook up with him week in and week out, that offense is, we know it can run the ball very effectively based off of last year under Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni also represents like kind of a baby fork in the road in that way. It was not the most fun thing in the world to see Jalen Hurts have a somewhat promising preseason game.
6 for 6, touchdown pass. If you're a Cowboys fan, that's the last thing you wanted to see, right? Like you wanted Jalen Hurts to go out there and look like a chicken running around with his head cut off. That's not what he looked like at all. Just so you know, I'm picking the Eagles to win the NFC East. I was picking them to win that before this preseason game was ever played.
You're basic. Sure, whatever.
Kudos to Jalen Hurts. You should be worried. Cowboys not winning the NFC East. Just get ready for it. That's all I'm saying.
You went twice in a row, so I think I should go twice in a row. But I've only done a positive so far. And it was, so just to keep in mind, one of your bigger losers was my team, and your only winner was my team's direct rival. So just to put in perspective how good of friends we are, my winner, my first one, was your team. So again, like the balance of what's happening here, I just want I want people to be aware of when it comes down to time for MFW MVP, if I could lane that. But so time for 2 losers in a row. The first one, and I feel bad like picking on them, but you mentioned the Eagles. It was that game, the New York Jets. Robert Saleh, man, and some of the loserness is not their fault. Like the Mekhi Becton thing is not their fault. Even the Zach Wilson thing is not their fault. But Zach Wilson, what are you doing running? Like it's the game-winning play of the Super Bowl here. Like why are you scrambling inbounds? And I know that some of that's hindsight stats, but I think some of it is fair. And I don't blame Zach for that. I blame Robert Saleh. Like you got to know, like, dude, it's the first preseason game. You're coming back from an injury, to a degree. Like you cannot be out here wheeling and dealing like this. Like there has to be a level of measured, practicality with how risky you're going to be in the first preseason game, and now there's this massive domino effect. This isn't this is different from a fork in the road. So like the Jets season looks terrible, right? Like the Jets outside of the Cleveland Browns, the Jets might be having the worst time right now in the NFL. They're in line to start Joe Flacco in week 1. Do you know who the Jets play in week 1, by the way?
Not off the top of my head.
The Baltimore Ravens. Think about that.
Sweet.
I mean, like, it's so awkward and weird and kind of cool. But I mean, ultimately, and I don't like the verbiage that's happening here with Zach Wilson. Well, we're thinking 2 to 4 weeks, but they won't know until they get in there and they take a look at this meniscus. That does not scream this is going to be 2 to 4 weeks to me. This feels like a left-footed start, and so I do blame the bad luck of it all. Like, that's outside of the Jets' control. Some of it is just like they're the Jets. Like, this is just these things happen to the Jets, right? But some of it, again, is controllable. I think you can fight against that from a practical standpoint. I think if you're Robert Saleh, you can say, look, Zach, nobody needs to go out here and play hero. It's the preseason. Let's just go out. Let's complete a few passes. Let's dump them off. Let's get in, get out, and move on to next week.
I disagree with that. I mean,
yeah, because you're caving for Robert Saleh.
Zach Wilson didn't get hurt because he took a hit. It was a non-contact injury.
Yeah, because he cut back inside. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, sorry, he can't make a cut on a football field. I mean,
not in a week where there are sods that aren't up to snuff across the NFL. I mean, just
the same thing happened to Jimmy Garoppolo when he tore his ACL. People are like, "What are you doing cutting back?" He's playing football. I mean,
in the regular season. That's
I didn't know cuts were not allowed in the preseason.
They shouldn't be. Why are you out there cutting in the open field if you're a starting quarterback on an NFL team? You don't need to be doing that in the preseason.
Okay, that's crazy to me. Is it bad luck? Yes. Are the Jets snake bit? 100%. But you're right about the effect that this could have, because if it is a more significant knee injury, I do feel like that could cause potentially the Jets to look for another quarterback. Like, that changes the whole trajectory of things. And it's just, what a terrible start, right? The first is Mekhi Becton gets hurt, and then you're like, all right, well, they signed Dwayne Brown. That's a pretty good move, right? You kind of mitigated that a little bit. But then for Zach Wilson to get hurt, and of course for them to then insist that Joe Flacco is a starting no, he's not. No, he's not. He's not a starting quarterback. We all know he's not a starting quarterback. This isn't like the Rams with Kurt Warner, right? Nobody knew what Kurt Warner was.
Right.
We know what Joe Flacco is. We have seen enough Joe Flacco to know we have seen too much Joe Flacco. So It's just a terrible start for the Jets. I hope that Zach Wilson is okay. They sent him to Dr. Neil Elatrash, who is the same guy that did Jimmy Garoppolo's knee injury and Nick Bosa's knee injury, and I think Tom Brady when Tom Brady went down. But it is scary to hear them say, well, we think it's a meniscus, but we won't really know. See, that to me is like insiders trying to cover their butts, right? They're trying to report what the injury is, but then they're also trying to make it that if it's not what they said, well, they were still right because they said, well, we won't know until he gets in there. Then don't tell me anything about the injury and just say we won't know what it is until they open him up.
I also think, like, because I'm not a doctor, but, like, you're aware of what the worst case well, no, unfortunately. So don't heed the advice that I gave you previously about that thing that you asked me, that sensitive thing. Like, you have to be aware, like, or the Jets have to be aware, obviously, of the, like, worst case scenario here, right? Like, well, hey, we think it's this meniscus, it's 2 to 4 weeks, whatever, but it's possible, however infinitesimally small the possibility is, that it's this thing that would mean this, right? And so to me, I agree with you that it's like the covering of tracks, but I also think it's the buying of time. Say it's the oh no injury that takes him out for like 3 months, right? So this buys the Jets time to figure out their plan, right? Like the Cleveland Browns are in this situation where, they're thinking like, well, if Deshaun is suspended, we might trade for Jimmy Garoppolo because we think we have a functional roster to contend, that Jimmy can kind of oversee and steer the ship on. I don't think the Jets are in that boat. Like I know this is a weird spot for you because you're kind of looking for avenues or opportunities to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. You're not like rooting for anybody to get hurt. This would seemingly present an opportunity, but the Jets aren't in the same place as the Browns are. They're certainly not in the same place morally to tease a future loser. But these are the Jets. I mentioned their first game stats. I just want to quickly. These are. It's difficult if they're Zach Wilson lists. Even if they have Zach Wilson, I think you can make an argument that they might not get a win until week 12. Okay, so hear me out. So this is just very quickly. Baltimore at home to start the season. At Cleveland, week 2. Obviously, no Deshaun changes that calculus, but still. Cincinnati, at Pittsburgh, Miami, at Green Bay, at Denver, New England, Buffalo, bye. at New England, and then Chicago in Week 12. Could you not see them losing every single one of those games?
Yeah, if they won one, I'd be surprised, right?
Right,
if you
like
flip it around, you're like, they didn't lose all those games. I'd be like, damn, really? Which one? Who did they beat?
you can argue like Miami. Maybe we don't know exactly how that's going to look. We don't know what Pittsburgh's going to look like. Whatever things like that. But like, if we're talking like benefit of the doubt and stuff, I mean, it's not like snake bit, whatever. Yeah, not a good time. But are you ready to move on? I have a few more. Okay,
I've got another one too.
Okay, well, I was gonna get to go twice in a row, so you already like ruined that. So I think we can agree very quickly. Loser Joel Bitonio in the Cleveland Browns, right? Like we don't need to spend a lot of time on that. I don't think we want to spend a lot of time on this, but what was his exact?
Why we're
well, I know, but I know you're gonna pull up the exact quote, but the Cleveland Browns visited the Jacksonville Jaguars for their preseason opener. They were booed relentlessly, as you can imagine. And Joel Bitonio gave an interview. I don't know exactly with who. That's why Stats is checking this. And said that that's going to be the case this year. It's Cleveland against the world, which was really tone deaf. Like really, like what are you doing, dude? Like what? Like I mean, it's possible to acknowledge that you're going to be booed wherever you go without being like, can you believe the whole world is uniting against us? What a bunch of villains that are out there that fill this world. I mean, it was just a really I tweeted this when the story came out. Anytime any person associated with the Browns has spoken about this, they have made this worse.
This is not a difficult situation to navigate. Like Joel Bitonio could have said, obviously we're expecting that. It's something that we need to prepare for and we have to be ready to deal with. But instead, he tried to flip it around and make the Browns victims. And when you sign a serial sexual predator to be the face of your franchise and you give him the biggest quarterback contract and you fully guarantee it, you are not the victim. You have done this to yourself. And it's just so tone deaf. When people say it's us against the world, usually it's because like people don't think you're very good. Like it's usually undue criticism that you're talking about. It's not criticism you get from signing Deshaun Watson to play quarterback, and people are going to be upset about that. This just in, Joel. We don't want criminals to be quarterbacks, okay? Sorry. And don't miss me with that 2 grand juries didn't decide to move forward with the case. Garbage, okay? It is garbage. And yeah, you deserve every boo you get. And I'm sorry. I hope the Browns lose every single game, game, because they chose this path.
That might be one of the wins that the Jets pick up early on.
There you go.
But before my other loser, I just wanted to say I haven't read Football More Than America yet. We started this a little bit earlier than usual, but I just saw this tweet. Peter King said in Football More Than America, I think only one thing in the preseason meant anything much this weekend. 17 penalties by the Cowboys. Like whatever. Anyway, my other loser, we're kind of up against it, so we'll just kind of blitz through these. The Indianapolis Colts first team offense. It takes me no joy, Stats, to report that the Colts got worked by Buffalo's second string. I would actually just say the Colts in general, because they got worked by Case Keenum. Like they got worked in every sense. And this wasn't like, the Colts just trotted out Nick Foles out there the whole entire time. Like their first team offense did not look great. And is that like a death sentence for them? No, it's the preseason. All that context matters. It was not a good look though. It's also not a good look for Nick Foles to not look great, because all similar to Carson Wentz. He's reunited with Frank Reich. Watch out now, Nick Foles under the impressive leadership and tutelage of the almighty Frank Reich. No, like I'm so sick of these Colts narratives, and like they've made themselves victims in very different ways than the Browns have, obviously, and I'm sick of it. I'm proud of you, Bills. My AFC. I know I've had some issues with the Bills too. That's what happens when you love somebody, Stats. You go through. You got to be able to love somebody to be able, to kind of work through that. And I love the Bills, and I'm so happy that they embarrassed those frauds up in Indianapolis.
I think you do take a little bit of pleasure in that. It sounds like you certainly do. But Matt Ryan played into the second quarter. This is Matt Ryan. This is not his rookie year. Playing into the second quarter in the first preseason game was a little surprising, but I agree with you, right? The last two quarterbacks, Foles and Reich, they were supposed to be reunited. Foles and Wentz, excuse me. They're supposed to be reunited with Frank Reich, and neither one of them has looked great. And it's like, well, maybe Frank Reich is the problem. Maybe the problem isn't the quarterbacks that he's bringing in. Maybe it's him. So I agree. Not a good look. And stock down Colts.
I don't think it's like the problem's him. I think he had two like hits, right? Like he had two amazing songs, and it's like that's all he does. He goes on tour, but he's like playing the new stuff, and it doesn't work. And people are like, come on, play if this is it, Huey. Come on, you know what I mean? Like just play the hits. And he's trying to tell people, well, it actually reminds me of the Cowboys. Like anytime Jerry Jones speaks these days, he has to make some quip or some joke or tie it in to be like, oh, Michael Irvin back in the night. It's like nobody cares at this point, Frank. You know what I mean? Like you had success with these dudes 5 years ago. Move on. We all have. You cannot ride. He's actually, think about that. Nobody has ridden the coattails of Carson Wentz and Nick Foles more than Frank Reich over the last 5 years.
Yeah, even more than Doug Peterson. I just think it's interesting that you had the opportunity to go to any musical artist for your analogy, and the artist you went to was Huey Lewis.
I feel really badly because Huey Lewis doesn't have like two hits. He has a lot of bangers. So I feel bad that I lumped Huey in that mix. Yeah.
Man, I thought you were going to go like Ricky Martin or like you went.
She bangs. Oh, baby, when she moves. Yeah,
all right.
That's right.
I know we got to get to the MF double MVP real quick. I do want to give a little bit of love to Romeo Doubs, who was hyped up by Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. For somebody playing in a preseason game, I felt like there was a lot of expectation for him because of the comments that Aaron Rodgers has made. We've all talked about, what are the Packers going to do at wide receiver? Devontae Adams isn't there anymore. Then Rodgers comes out specifically and says this Romeo Doubs guy's pretty good. And guess what? He caught a long touchdown pass from Jordan Love. He should have had more. He was blowing by 49ers players in the secondary all night long. Love actually missed him on a couple of plays where he was wide freaking open. If he had caught those balls, he'd have over 100 yards or something close to it, multiple touchdowns. He would be the headline for the Packers. Like, hey, they're good now, right? Aaron Rodgers talked this guy up. He's really good. So he deserves a lot of love because he looked as good as we've come to expect.
Stock up in general for the Packers. Christian Watson activated off the PUP list, their second-round rookie. So, things are kind of, looking Aaron Rodgers has just been through so much adversity. You know what I mean? It's nice to see him finally, coming up on the sunny side of things. My absolute last one, then we go to the MVP, is a winner and a loser in a weird way. It's an appropriate one to end on, and not really a loser, kind of losing in a winning way. Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers, in the sense that they got no clarity on their quarterback situation because they all played well. I mean, I can't think of a scenario where that's been the case. And I'm not saying that the situation was muddied, but Mitchell Trubisky starts off 4 of 7, 63 yards, throws a touchdown. Okay, cool. You're kind of thinking Mitch just kind of proved he's the guy. Mason Rudolph comes in, 9 of 15, 93 yards, hits Kenny Pickett, hits goodness gracious, Pickens. Thank you, George Pickens. For the touchdown. So he not only scores but lights up the young rookie receiver that everybody's excited about. So you got that juice coming in. Okay, Kenny Pickett. We've seen what we've seen from Trubisky. Even Mason Rudolph, a nice day, but it's difficult to kind of top this. Comes in 13 of 15, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns, including the game winner. So you're kind of like it's a fun time. I'd have to imagine it's so much fun to be a Steelers fan. It's a very different thing than you've just kind of been stuck in for a very long time, and so that's got to be cool. So a winner, ultimately a winner, but loser in that it's hard to narrow this down. I mean, maybe you don't think it's hard.
3 quarterbacks played for the Steelers. All 3 had a quarterback rating over 100, so that's good for that. And honestly, I feel like they all needed to do that because I still maintain that if Jimmy Garoppolo is released, I don't put it past the Steelers to make a move for him. And so if you're one of those 3 quarterbacks on the roster right now, you want to make your case that you should not be the guy cut to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo. So good job by the Steelers. I don't think anybody expected anything out of Kenny Pickett, so I'm sure he was like, yeah, look, turns out I'm good. Everyone's making fun of me for the gloves and whatever. I don't suck, okay? I'm pretty good, and I was drafted in the first round. I was the only quarterback drafted in the first round, and I'm going to show you why.
I just wanted to add to finish here. The NBC Sports Edge team does a great job with their little blurbs on players, and this was their write-up on Mitchell Trubisky. The caption was, Trubisky started the Steelers' first preseason game Saturday and completed 4 of 7 passes for 63 yards and 1 touchdown. Then the blurb, the first sentence says, he added a 4-yard rush and showed more mobility than Ben Roethlisberger pretty much ever had under center for the Steelers. So, I mean, again, it just has it's so rare that like things are only fun, that the vibes are only good. And if you're a Steelers fan, I mean, if you look from like a competitive standpoint, right now the Ravens are in this weird, kind of mix, and obviously they're still a threat. Yeah, the Bengals are there, but if you're a Steelers fan, you're like, they're the Bengals. Like they're gonna figure out a way to be the Bengals ultimately when it's all said and done. The Browns can't get it out of their own way. Joel Bitonio is the latest person to stick his foot in his mouth, and you've got like this fun debate. It's not like sometimes quarterback debates can get toxic. You know that Jimmy G, Trey Lance, I tell you Romo, Dak, like it can be not fun. This is all fun. It's not like there's a sense of loyalty to Trubisky the way there was for Jimmy or Romo, whatever the case may be. Good times if you're a Steelers fan, but good times here on the MF. Well, not the MFWP, on MFM Monday Football Monday. It is now time to award the MF Double MVP. Rachel, as you come in, I read this review on the Look Ahead on Friday. Kolbs _ the artist formerly known as Big Pig, made a plea to award the MFW MVP to the SB Nation NFL show audience. So I guess they're technically eligible. You've never gone that route. But again, it's your award. You are eligible, as always, to give it to anybody who appeared on the show, which includes the three of us and Dak Prescott. So it's up to you, Rachel. How do you feel? What was your favorite takeaway from what we had to say? The floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Two takeaways from both of you guys that I thought were really strong. RJ, I loved your point on Mike Tomlin, how that was kind of like a winner and a loser. That was really good. Also, Bettino, how he was a loser because of his comment.
He's the biggest loser, yeah.
The biggest loser by far. Stats, I liked, of course, the point on the Cowboys penalties. I thought that was really strong. You got to mention that, duh. And I also really like the Chicago Bears organization. The argument you came in really, really strong about the Soldier Field.
That was two for me, RJ. Two. I got
two. Two.
I got two as well. Stats. I mean,
I had two that I wanted to say. They're both positive.
Of course.
But I thought that the rookie quarterbacks that could be like it fall in the winners category. I thought they all looked really promising for the most part. Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell looked really good for the Commanders, and Kenny Pickett you already touched on for the Steelers. And I also thought I said a tight end for the Ravens, Isaiah Likely. I thought that
super fast
the situation right now, the receiver core is not like a bright spot. So it looks like the Ravens are definitely going to be leaning on like their tight ends right now. And to see him coming in as like a pretty fast, big body receiver, I think that's promising for the Ravens. So the time has come. I'm gonna give it to Stats today.
Let's go.
I think he did a really good job. So, yeah.
Every time I'm on this show, I win this. So do you have like an MF double MVP standings? Because I think I'm at the top, and I'm not even a regular host.
Rachel.
And I think I really like how you guys went back and forth with the Mike McCarthy point. So. Yeah.
So one of Stats' best points was something I helped him with? That doesn't make sense.
Oh,
I mean,
if anybody's carrying anybody, it's me carrying you, and I'm 140 pounds, so that's not easy.
Rachel, I don't know if you realize
you also get RJ for the interview. I mean, everybody listened to the interview.
I know, Rachel, but now you gave Stats the award in an episode where he competed with Dak Prescott. So now Stats can forever say that he beat out Dak. Why would you do this to me, Rachel? We're supposed to be friends.
We are friends.
All I'm saying, RJ, every time I'm on the show, I win the award. Like, you just want to rename it the Stats Guerrera MVP award?
Dang.
So now it's Stats Guerrera. We're going legal last name, but nickname in the front. Make up your mind. Yep. You can't be two things, all right? You gotta
I'm the MF double MVP. I can do whatever I want, buddy.
Wow, Rachel.
Thank you.
Wow.
You're welcome.
I hope everybody has a great day. I hope Rachel has the best day because I want to return hate with love. So that's where I'm at. Stats, I hope, congratulations, Stats. Well earned, well fought. You deserve all your flowers. What's your favorite kind of flower?
What? My favorite kind of flower?
Yeah, what's your favorite kind of flower?
I don't have a
dandelion,
favorite flower.
Daffodil,
dandelion
tulip.
Is a weed.
It's pretty. It's pretty to look at. Okay, let's get out of here.
Flower.
As we get out of here, Stats, as the MFW MVP, I do this sometimes on Blogging the Boys roundtables. Make a random noise as we leave. Just a random noise, not a word, not something normal that humans hear. Make a random noise.